dzień dobry. Nazywam się Eduard Marcek, jestem szefem Słowackiego Centrum Fundraisingu i bardzo dziękuję za zaproszenie. I będę mówił po angielsku i potem możemy rozmawiać po polsku. So I was invited to speak about strategic fundraising for difficult causes because I like fundraising for difficult causes. And I would like to start with a quote of Elizabeth Chamberlain, who is an English fundraiser, who said, "Whatever the cause, someone will fund it." So this is my first message for you from today. Don't be afraid, even if you work with complicated causes. There is out there someone who is prone to fund you. So what do we mean by difficult causes? Difficult causes are causes which are somehow complex, too complicated, not easy to understand. They might be political, and in democracies, politics is always divisive. As you had the presidential election yesterday, you saw divided division. They might be controversial, so they might be liked by some, but they might be disliked by the others. So they are also dividing the audience. And these are usually niche topics, very unpopular, so not mainstream. And what do we mean by that? For example, fundraising for minorities, human rights, for watchdogs, think tanks, topics like corruption, and so on. Education, I still consider fundraising for education or culture quite difficult. The good message is that the principles of fundraising are the same, though there are some specificities, some specifics. And these are the challenges. Your target groups, your target donor groups are smaller. So if you work with difficult causes, it is probably that the donor group is smaller than with mainstream topics. There is a danger that it will be perceived controversially. So you might receive negative reactions, negative attitudes, and people will be afraid to associate with your cause. But still the fundraising works. And how to fundraise strategically? Well, these are some suggestions. Be strategic, be diversified, but at the same time be focused, be passionate and authentic, be visible and connected, credible, be asking and stewarding. And I will go through these topics and I will provide you some examples, not only from my country, but from others as well. So, obviously, if you want to do strategic fundraising, you should have strategic plan for your organization and for your fundraising. So you should formulate the plan and implement it. You should state your goals and follow them, and you should monitor and evaluate if you keep them or re-evaluate them. Be diversified means do not rely on one source of funding, but search for more. Look for the donors who have the greatest motivation and ability to support you. Search for new donor groups and generate leads. Leads are information or data on your potential donors. I have the example from the Transparency International Slovakia. I will have most examples from them because I used to work with them. And they try to diversify their donor groups. So they try to approach new donors, and they organized a meeting in Brussels. It's so-called diaspora fundraising. So they try to approach expat Slovaks and Czechs because the thinking behind was these are people who understand the difficult topic. These are educated experts. These are people who are affluent, so they have money. And they understand the topic of corruption is one of the major issues in my country. So they organized a meeting, they went to Brussels, talked to them, and collected contacts. Unfortunately, they did not follow because they had lack of capacities, but it was a new attempt how to approach new donor group. Whenever you come to their website, they ask for data. They collect your information, so they generate leads. They offer you a subscription to their newsletter. This is an example from the Amnesty International from the Czech Republic. They elect funds for face-to-face fundraising, but they went out to streets and collected signatures for petitions. It was a low-cost approach. So they asked people to sign petitions, but at the same time they asked them to provide their consent that they can submit further information. So they were put on their database. And at the same time, they were using them for one-off donations. So they were so-called selling stamps, which is a way of collecting one-off donations for them. And it was very successful. Actually, this is borrowed from my friend from the Czech Amnesty. And from how they generated the leads from online or offline ways, once someone signed petition for fourth time or did something with the organization for fourth time, they approached him or her and asked them to become a donor. So they converted these engaged people into donors or into activists. And it was pretty successful, 25% converted. Okay, be focused, so know and target your audience. Try to learn as much as possible who are your potential and existing donors. And since you will be working with difficult, or you are working with difficult topics, don't get distracted by negative reactions. This is an Institute of Economic and Social Studies, and the issue of Roma minority is very controversial in my country. And they knew that there's a lot of prejudices and stereotypes, so they came up with a sort of controversial campaign, and I will play you a video.
As much as 90% of Slovak citizens believe that they feed at least one Roma through their taxes. In fact, through your taxes and social contributions, you also feed several pensioners, mothers with children, one policeman, 4 civil servants, a railway worker, a road construction worker, doctors, nurses, students, farmers, and at least one disabled person or prison inmate. Don't feed the false belief that you feed mainly Roma. Social benefits for large families comprise less than 0.3% of the taxes you pay.
As you see, it's quite interesting, but also very controversially perceived, and they created very heated debate. They received hundreds of reactions on social media, even complaints for the Council for Advertising that it is unethical advertising. But I'm showing this because they did not get distracted by the negative reactions. They saw it is important, and they went out with this creative and yet controversial campaign. Okay, as fundraisers, you should be passionate and authentic. It means you need to love your cause, you need to be convinced, then you can convince the others. So if you lack passion for what you do, then it will be hard to convince someone else. So have confidence in yourself and have confidence in the solutions that you are providing as an organization. The fundraising essential is the communication, as you know. So you need to be visible and connected. So build your brand and distinguish yourself from the others, because out there are plenty of your competitors, plenty of other organizations who fight for the same funds. Formulate good value proposition for your donors. So provide the offering what the donors can achieve through different levels of their support, and be creative and innovative how you do it. And you need to use stories and emotions, either positive or negative emotions. Ideally, stories of individuals, because you need to open the hearts of your donors before they open their purses. And for that, you need emotions. Journalists mention them almost every day on TV or print media. Thank you. This is an example of a Hungarian organization, Hungarian Civil Liberty Union, and they are using very creatively fundraising videos. And I want to play you one value proposition for donors, because I think it's quite inspirative.
The global drug war has been waged for 50 years without success. It has proved unable to reduce drug consumption, but it undermines security and development, fuels the HIV epidemic, undermines human rights, promotes stigma and discrimination, creates crime, causes environmental pollution, and leads to the wasting of millions of dollars on law enforcement.
The real beneficiaries are the criminal organizations which share the $400 billion market in illicit drugs.
The Hungarian Civil Liberties Union strives to educate the public about the negative consequences of the drug war.
We make online advocacy movies which mobilize people and promote human rights.
Video sharing websites and social media allow us to amplify the voice of those fighting for drug policy reform.
We produce video chronicles of the harm reduction movement.
We cooperate with NGOs on advocacy videos on the best and worst practices and examples in drug policy.
We attend the key drug policy decision-making forums like the Commission on Narcotic Drugs as media representatives.
We put the inconvenient questions that journalists would not dare to ask.
Our videos can make these bodies more transparent and accountable.
We also train fellow activists in video advocacy so they can produce their videos on their own.
Our videos are watched by millions of people worldwide.
If you would like to see more HCLU videos, please support us. Please donate to us at Global Giving.
A contribution of $50 will pay for some batteries, $100 for a hard drive to store footage.
Or donate us $250 for a plane ticket.
Or a camera for $3,000. It's up to you.
So I encourage you to go to their website and get inspired, because I think it's very well how it is done. You are offering different levels of support to your donors. And the same is done by another example from Hungary, Central European University. They have different campaigns for approaching their alumni and offerings. So they offer their alumni to support reconstruction of the new campus, support of the new generation of students, or different departments of the school or general fund of the university. And they are very well in connecting and in building the network. So far, they managed to collect more than $700,000 from their students. These are also other examples from the Economic Institute. They have a good case for support, or another private university from Bratislava. So have different offerings for your donors. That's my message. The Czech Amnesty wanted to approach new donor group of affluent potential major donors, and they wanted to do it in low-cost way. So they engaged new artists as young artists, and they created auction or sales of art. And it grew and grew. It was very successful, and now it generates 10% of their individual income from individual donors. But my message is be creative and be innovative in approaching new donor groups with this. Or it's another controversial campaign which used the issue of Roma in Slovakia. It was trying to build on prejudices and stereotypes majority of the population have, and it was provoking people. The message is like the Romas should start working hard, and the following was, or the ending of the campaign, on their talent. So it's an organization which supports adoption of talented Roma children. Or that's an example from the people in Peril in the Czech Republic, and they wanted to collect the money for development issues, so they came up with online sales, so you could have bought an animal, a cow or a goose, and you would receive a certificate. So there are many examples, and I encourage you to go and get inspired by those who do it well. Or these are visuals from another humanitarian organization, Magna, Children in Need, and they were using the issues of traveling, like first moment, last minute, people in Cambodia need your help. When I spoke about emotions, this is an example of the transparency again. Once they posted a blog post where they disclosed the background of the major ice hockey club in Bratislava. It was a complicated structure where one of the oligarchs was hidden. So it raised so much emotions that only by posting the blog post they managed to collect 1,000 euros from 39 donors in one day, because it raised negative emotions. And then they asked supporters so that we can produce other analytical blog posts like this. When I spoke about the stories, this is example of the Central European University, and several years ago they used the stories of individual alumni, like how the study at the university changed their lives. So these are individual concrete stories with which they were approaching the alumni and asking them for support. Okay, be credible, inform about your work, about the solutions, and report transparently. Of course, if someone supports you, you need to show the impact, you need to show how the money was spent. That's just a visual when the message about the campaign went on major Slovak newspaper. And finally, be asking and stewarding. So if you do not ask, you will not get. So as fundraisers, you know that if you don't ask for support, people don't automatically support you. They need to be approached. And actually the reason why majority of people support is, in 80% some of the research say that because they were asked by someone. The best way is to ask personally, of course. There are two approaches. You should ask them not to do much, only to support them, or others say that ask more from your donors. So you should test, and depending on your course, on what you do, either you only ask for support, which could be the best strategy, or you try to engage them, in signing petition, in getting volunteer, inviting into your events and financial support. And most importantly, build relationships and create communities around your causes, around your organizations. Fundraising is not about money, it is about relationships. These are examples, again, from the transparency. It was only so easy to ask because their brand was so strong. So we came up with suggestions, why don't we ask at the end of each provocative blog post, analytical blog post, why don't we ask people for support? So we put the button at the end of each blog post and on the blog as such, and it just went like this. It was easy, it was enough just to ask. This is an example from 2010. It was before a political campaign, and it's a well-known cartoonist called Shuti, who was provocative every day. On newspaper, he was showing different provocative cartoons, and he was fed up with the existing government. So he wanted to do like a civic initiative. He wanted to put up 4 billboards before the election. And the message was that he's fed up with all those robbers who are stealing the country. So he wanted to portray 3 major political figures. And he put it online. He put it on his website and on his Facebook. And he ran a viral campaign, which is unprecedented, or was unprecedented at that time. And yeah, I don't have time to play the video for you. Okay, I will tell you that he managed to collect 75,000 euros instead of 4, which was his target, within 15 days. So it was just so easy to ask because he was so well connected, he had a community around himself, he was a strong brand, And he just what he needed was to ask. And he used the emotion, and people started to support him. So that was the first political sort of crowdfunding campaign. Create communities around your organizations, like the Club of Donors, and organize events for your donors. Like this is a first transparency beer, where they try to get together their donors, their supporters, their collaborators. It was a very successful event, very popular, and that's the way how you build communities and build the relationships. The Central European University annually organizes reunions for their students. So it was actually last weekend. They invite you to Budapest. They organize a ball, a spring ball, and gala dinner party, and that's how they build the relationships. That's another example from the Masaryk University from the Czech Republic. Okay, don't stop here, or stop here. You might not see it exactly. First and foremost, always put your donors and your cause on the first place. Do not speak about yourself. Do not speak about your needs, about the needs of your organization, but put your donors first. Because however strange it may look, the donors have their needs as well. And for this, I will play you a video.
Goedemiddag, collecte. Heeft u wat over voor ons?
Momentje.
Ja. Geweldig. Heel eventjes. Komt u gewoon verder. Wij vinden u namelijk een echte held, dat u wat geld heeft gegeven. En daarom hebben we iets heel leuks voor u. Wat is dit nou? Kom verder.
Dag mevrouw. Er is een heldendaad voor je. Mag ik u verzoeken even op het podium te komen? U heeft zojuist met uw gift een heldendaad verricht. En we gaan u bedanken en u onderscheiden met de eremedaille van de collecte. Applaus, hip hip, hoera! Hip hip, hoera! Hip hip, hoera!
That was a video from the Netherlands, from the Dutch campaign to award, to value your donors, which was called "Every Donor is a Hero, Every Gift is a Heroic Act of Heroism." So I wish you as many heroes as possible. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take your question afterwards, and I'll be here all day long, so looking forward to talking to you. Bardzo dziękuję.